Hello and welcome to the Wise Why. This morning I am joined by Ben Leiws from Innovision Security. I hope I said that correctly. Ben, like me, set up a business in the pandemic, and Ben and I have supported each other over the last year incredibly. When things have become overwhelmed for me, I've been able to pick up the phone and go, and the same for him. So not only did we work together at Hanwha and he was my customer, we've become firm friends. So as usual, this really is enough about me. This is about Ben. So Ben, please tell everybody about yourself, because I think you are so brave.
Brave? God, I feel brave. I feel terrified. Basically, I'm Ben Leiws. I'm the owner of Innovision Security, and we specialise in protecting you, your family, your home, and your business using electronic security systems.
So you've just said there that you're terrified, which I think is really interesting. And the reason for it is, if somebody was to come into my house, and this has actually genuinely happened to me, where I've been in bed and fast asleep and I've heard a noise downstairs, and it's that reality of, oh my goodness, someone's in my house. And I had to call the police. And I remember my heart was pounding and I was terrified, just like you are right now. What is it that you do differently that could keep me safe?
Well, again, I've been kind of on the other side of things where I've responded to a lot of burglaries, home invasions, and pretty nasty incidents. So I kind of understand and can relate to that kind of fear. It is terrifying. It literally is. I've ran into many a property before, and there's been an intruder in the home, and they're exiting pretty quickly. And there's always that element of, well, you want to help, but at the same time, you're obviously scared about the situation because it can go one of two ways. So security for me has always been fantastic. Something I've got a massive passion for, but it always seems to be, in my opinion, looking more towards protecting the property, creating that trigger for the police. So there's always going to be that gap where you're vulnerable and in harm's way. You could be waiting 20, 30 minutes for the police to arrive and there's someone in your home. So kind of, it should be obvious really, and I should have clicked onto it a long time ago, but I guess really now I design every system that I do to protect the person. It has to protect the person. It has to keep them safe for that window of time for the help to get there. There's also a big element of systems that actually don't call for help. So you're just stuck in that situation. So again, if I can create a solution that protects you, you're safe. And that's all that matters to me.
And that's really key, because I can remember the fear. My husband was away with work, and it was literally, I heard the key turn, and we were in a relatively new build, and I'm not sure how it all happened anyway. The key, the locks got changed the next day, but it was a very, very scary moment. Actually, I was petrified. I can remember being so scared. So anybody out there, I now have security cameras and an alarm system. And, something that's really key, and obviously I worked at Hanwha, so it's very different. But why should somebody put in a security system of some sorts into their home?
I think everybody should have some sort of security. I appreciate different people have got different budgets and there's so many things on the market to choose from. But, if there's a choice of no security and something, definitely have something. Security will always help you. Starting off, I think all security systems are originally, a very great deterrent. I always say to customers, and it sounds a little bit corny, but if you're walking down a road as an intruder and you've got, I don't know, a cul-de-sac with 20 houses and 18 of them have got an alarm system, you'd be a bit daft to go into one of those 18. You're going to pick on the two that aren't. So again, visual deterrent is certainly key. Also, I find that a lot of security systems are reactive in the sense that obviously, once the crime's committed, you can then look back at it or create a trigger as a result of that alarm. So try to look a little bit more at proactive security. So something I'm a massive ambassador of is proactive CCTV. Like you, actually, I think you said you had CCTV that can detect people outside. The fact that you're notified of that gives you so much more time to do something internally to keep yourself secure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there have been instances, and I've exported, and I'm not the most technical. Although I worked in the security channel, I'm not the most technical, but I managed to export the imagery and get it to the police. So there is something really special about having a recorder of systems, and I'm going to say systems because everyone's got a different choice of how they do that, and we're not going to go into the complexities of security this morning, because what I really want to explore is, why did you put on your brave trousers and set up a business?
Oh, a really difficult question, and I know before we came on, we've discussed this. I guess being honest, I've always cared about people. You know, I've walked into some pretty horrible situations over the years of doing this. You know, I've been doing it 25 years now, and I've just felt awful for the people that have been involved. You know, it's turned lives upside down, and I just feel that no one should feel like that. You know, everyone has that basic right to be safe, certainly in their own home. So I really wanted to try to just bring a genuine, honest, overall solution to a customer that would make them feel a little bit more reassured at home, and also just have that confidence and faith that that system's going to work when it needs to. Because ultimately, you know, we could for 20 years have no incident and then have one massive incident that's life changing. And if that system doesn't work in that one time, chances are you're never going to need it again. And in my sort of history, I've kind of come across a lot of systems from my own experience that actually don't work correctly. And it's only been quite lucky that because we're there looking at the system generally and doing some testing, we've realized it's not 100% and we've had to put it right.
So what I'd really like to know, and I'm sure other people that are listening would love to know, what was it like to suddenly decide to leave Hanwha and go out there on your own, because you've got a mountain to climb? And I mean, I know, because it's a huge mountain, and you're looking at this. Well, how do you do it? I mean, where did you start? Did you start with your website? Did you start with your social media? Did you start with getting your van and branding it? How did you start setting up your business?
Yeah, it was terrifying. It was probably one of the scariest things I've ever done. You know, the funny thing is I'm so confident in what I can do as an engineer. I class myself as an engineer. You know, I'd class myself as a business owner, a social media person, marketing or sales expert. I appreciate all these different roles come into being part of a business, but I didn't know where to start, if I'm honest. I kind of jumped into it. I have, luckily, throughout the years, built up a good network of people around me and people that kind of know me and trust me. So that kind of got me going. But I think originally, yeah, my first commitment was building my brand and building my logo, finding something that looked professional, quite simplistic, but just got the message across. And then I had to go at the social media, which, yeah, difficult to say the least.
Let's explore a bit about social media, because we both set up in a pandemic and social media was the only way we could get our message out. And I went down the route of going off and training in it with the Tech Pixies. But when we first spoke about a year and a bit ago, I remember you just going, I don't know what I'm doing. And I remember looking at your Instagram and going, well, you need to do it in a different format. And I was feeling very proud of myself because I could talk about the format, whereas you were like, what format? And so
Yeah.
what was it like putting that first post on Instagram? It must have been, wow. How did you get the courage?
I don't know. I just guess I thought, oh, okay, it can't be that hard, you know, give it a go. So I literally open up the phone, chuck on a picture, write a bit of text, and I've got no thought behind it whatsoever, really. I just am doing what feels natural. And again, yeah, after talking to certainly people like you, just found out it's totally wrong. Understanding the message you have to give across. I think one key thing as well, I'm quite a technical person, so I speak very technically. And I sometimes expect people to kind of know and understand what I do and what I know. So learning to actually put across my message in a more basic term, more understandable term, was where I really struggled. And hashtag, don't get me started on hashtags.
Yeah, we were just talking about that before we went live. I was like, yeah, hashtags. So it's interesting because I've got the advantage that I worked for a very big processor company, and if you look at you can see it, there's only two, and I worked for the one beginning with I, and through that I had to simplify the jargon of what the core range was. So pretty obvious who I worked for, and simplifying that jargon and taking it back to, and I remember we were talking about, when I was doing this, we took the whole of the processor and we referred to the processor as the brain. So, and then from there I went into the motherboard being the heart, the skeletal system, I think it was, and the front side bus being the heartbeat, and all of these different things. Make it so that people can understand. And that is one of the challenges I think the security market actually genuinely have, is we all have our features, and Roy was talking about this a couple of weeks ago. We talk about the features, we don't necessarily sell the story behind the benefits and how the benefits will absolutely be life-changing. And that is something that we can do but we get caught up in talking about a PTZ with 150, oh my God, infrared. It's a long time since I've spoken in Tech Talk, or wide dynamic range. And wide dynamic range to the average person out there is, what is it? And I always say it allows the camera to not go blind. So it's like when we blink. And I remember saying to people, you will laugh at this, when I was out doing the sales for Hanwha, saying, cover your eyes, now open them, cover, open. That is wide dynamic range. So anybody out there, please laugh.
It's a good way of explaining it, actually.
Very simple. And hey, there's a reel for you.
Yeah, I'll have to nick that one.
When you talked about when you first set up, and there is an awful lot setting up in a business. There is the social media, there is the stuff that we know, and this is something that I've learned recently. We really know what we are good at. I know I can get anybody camera confident. So I know I'm good at that. But how to get that message across is really, really challenging, especially if you're not a marketeer. So I think you're doing brilliantly, and I'm loving this. But who helped you along the way? Who has been a really big influence in the last year, helping you shape where you are?
Quite a few different people, really. Even people like yourself, you've been fantastic. We've been friends for some time, and you've been amazing. Using sort of your advice and your knowledge has been massive. Loved ones, close ones, they've been so supportive. I kind of went into this, again, sort of repeating myself, but I was so confident about what I could do, and I knew I could do it, and I was kind of guns blazing, ready to go. And I learned very, very quickly that, you're never going to get anywhere just by being good at your job. You need to be able to be good at other things, and you need to have good people around you. I'm quite stubborn in the sense that sometimes I just feel that my way is the only way. I'm not very good with advice. And I've kind of learned that actually, I don't know it all. I really don't. I know a small percentage of actually what it's like to run a business. Doing my job's easy, but getting the customers, keeping the customers, managing everything, it is so hard.
Yeah. What about the frustrations? I mean, there are some serious frustrations at the moment when we go to we get overloaded and we can get really frustrated. Have you found that challenging? Have you found that difficult?
Yeah. Like, I probably shouldn't admit it, but I've had many a sleepless night where I've just sat there and just thought, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? I'm struggling. I really am struggling. And I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit wrong in saying this. Maybe it's just a bit of a man thing, but you don't like to admit that you can't do something. You don't like to admit that you're doing something wrong. You do take a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, and you feel that you have to deal with it and you have to manage it. And it's very hard, or certainly for me personally, I can't speak for every man, but I find it very hard to admit that I'm struggling and that I need help.
That's very brave of you to say. And I think you've tapped on a really important comment there, that society doesn't allow men to necessarily admit that they're struggling. And there's lots of people I know over the last year, particularly men, who found themselves during the pandemic made redundant and not having an outlet to talk to. And there was some that I was really worried about, really very concerned about. And I've always wanted to be that support person. I guess that's why I reached out. I wanted to help and support, because it's lonely. It can be really lonely being a small business owner, which is why I go out networking and seeing other people who are struggling. And I don't know if you've been able to get out there face to face. I know you've been really busy, and I know that you've been out there up the ladder installing things. I don't know if you've been able to find a network yet of small business owners that you can go out with. I don't know if you found that, but if you haven't, I can recommend the Curry one. I haven't been on it, but it does look like it's predominantly male, and I would suggest that you have a look at it.
Yeah, being honest, again, time, you're trying to do so many different things as one person, and to start with, you're kind of coping because, it's a very small, slow step of getting the customers. So again, it's easy to manage, but certainly as I'm growing now, we are getting considerably large. And I'm just finding, wow, I do need this support, and I need to find the time for the support. So I haven't really tried the networking. I know there's things out there that I can go to, but again, it's very easy to kind of make excuses for time because you just don't feel that you have it. And now I'm understanding, actually, you have to make time, because if you don't do the smaller things, you'll struggle with the bigger things.
So I was at, because I've got a business coach, I've bought into some coaching deliberately because I was feeling not overwhelmed, but unstructured. I wanted that accountability because when you're working in an office, you've got your workmates and you've got your deadlines and you've got the people that will keep you accountable. But when you're a small business owner, you're in your own head an awful lot of the time. And so I've invested in that. And we were talking about not goal setting, everyone's on goal setting, but we were talking about tasks. And Anthony Donovan, who's coming on the Wise Why later in the year, he was talking about task A, task B, task C, and task X. And it's really interesting how we forget that we know we're good at what we do, but to get our message out there, we have to get other tasks until the business grows and we can bring in the support to underpin what we do. So, I think you're doing brilliantly. I really, really do. And that brings me on to my next question of aha moments. Have there been, you've talked about sleepless nights. Have there been any moments where you've just gone, I can't do this. Wow. Or the other is, wow, I am so proud of what I have achieved. I've actually, and you sit down and you celebrate your wins. Have there been any wins that you've celebrated?
Yeah, I've had quite a few different aha moments. Some of the ones have been certainly go, oh my god, I just can't do this anymore. Like, it's just been literally, I just feel like I've hit a brick wall. I don't know how I'm going to get around it, get through it, and I'm really not sure what to do. But then I come across other moments that have certainly been so positive, like where I've helped people. That is the biggest thing that kind of pulls me back up and makes me want to go back out fighting. I even over the years, I've been to many people that have been victims of crime, but because of the systems they've had and the things that we've done for them, it's been a lot less as severe as it could have been. In one instance, we actually completely eradicated any threat at all to the person, and they were so grateful for that. I just couldn't think of anything better. That feeling is the feeling that I want. If I can help just one person in my career be safe from a really nasty incident, then as far as I'm concerned, I've done my job. That's enough reward for me.
Yeah, and I think you've always been like that. I can remember when I first met you back in Camberley, and you had that same passion and that same drive. You drove me a little bit nuts because you're very structured, and the product at the time wasn't quite what you wanted, but I was convinced we could get it there, and we did get it there. But it's interesting how we've worked together. Actually, it really has been, because I can remember driving when we worked at Hanwha, I need this now. And you were like, yeah, but you used to do that to me in Camberley. And yeah, it's just a really lovely relationship. And I'm really pleased actually that you're in my life. We talked about aha moments, and we're coming to the end because we obviously it's the day after the security show. So I think a lot of people are asleep right now. But this is where you get to turn the tables and ask me any questions you want. So you can throw something at me, and yeah, I can see if I can answer it.
I guess really, I'm just as interested like you are me, in the sense of how you feel that you're doing as a person in business. It's an extremely difficult thing to do, and on the surface, you look like you're hammering it. You're nailing it. It's perfect. I appreciate that behind the scenes sometimes it was difficult. So, what have been your challenges?
So a lot, and it's really interesting because someone said exactly the same thing to me yesterday. You're hammering, you're out there, you're doing really well. Like everybody, I have built a brand, and I'm really proud of where I've got the brand, and I do feel I feel like I've done something really, really well. I've got my SEOs working really well, thanks to Joe. I'm tracking in first or second position for Be Camera Confident, which is my big SEO, and it's great. And I've won awards, so this first year's been magical. At the same time, and yes, I am in profit at the end of my first year, it's not been as successful as I would like it to be. It's not churning the money in. I can't take that full salary yet that I would like to take. And I can't expand yet. So I'm at that precipice of, I need some more work so I can bring in more trainers, so I can then get a social media manager and all of those things. So I'm at that frustrated point where everyone's telling me I've got a business that's really good, and everyone's telling me that they want to use my services, but no one's signing on the dotted line, and I'm like, sound familiar?
Yeah, be honest, it's funny you say that, because I think every business, even a few years in, I'm into my third year now, and I always feel like I'm on that seesaw in the dead center of it. And, I just cannot tip it the right way to the point where, yeah, we've got good work coming in and money's turning over, and that's fantastic. But to then take on more financial responsibility from, being responsible for staff and so on, to keep growing that's a massive, commitment and
It's
responsibility.
exhausting.
It's huge. And
Yeah.
just get into that position is so hard. I wish there was a magic answer to that, really.
I do. Now, we've had a lovely comment come in, so it's quite a long one. So give me a chance here. Here goes on the glasses. You are doing brilliantly, Ben. How cool is that as a lovely opening?
Oh, thank
Our coach, John Paul, and good luck with this one, Kirsty. Mendoza. Was that right? No. Come on, give it to me. Tell me how to say it correctly. No, I've got no idea. Anyway, I think it's Paul Mendoza. I'm not sure. I'm really sorry. The dyslexia's come out brilliantly here. Suggested we do a 3 good, 2 bad, 1 ugly sheet every week. So we write down 3 good things, 2 bad things, and 1 ugly thing that's happened that week. To be able to recognize and celebrate the good things and actually remember them, it helps to stop you being overwhelmed. We've been there by the bad things, because those things don't tend to get forgotten. Thank you. I don't know who the LinkedIn user is, because it's not come up with a name, but Mendoza. Thank you. My daughter would be able to say that properly, but me, no. And I think that's really, really true. I don't know about you, and I have learned in the last year to celebrate my wins, even if they're small. So, I think about this week. I went out I went out networking yesterday, and I started the business coaching with a new business coach set up on Wednesday. So I've had 2 really good things happen this week. Tell me your win this week.
Yeah, I must admit, actually, there's one thing I'm really bad at. I don't celebrate the wins, and I really should do, because I'm ultimately grateful for every single small win. Every additional customer is massive. So this week I got an amazing contract that I can't go too much into detail for, but again, it was one of these big jobs that I've been waiting for nearly 3 years. I've been slowly, sort of fighting away at it, helping them, advising them, and then finally it's come to fruition. And yeah, it's an amazing moment. But sometimes it's very easy to take those jobs for granted, or any job for granted. So now, yeah, I'm sort of trying to spend more time in making it quite obvious, to myself, that is fantastic. That is a win. That's something I'm doing well. And it helps against the negatives, because there's always a lot of negatives in business, and sometimes it's easy to get stuck on those negatives. Yeah. And I'm terrible for that.
And that's a really interesting thing that you're saying about the process. So I've got people that I'm talking to now that I know will not purchase my services for another year or 2. And I don't think, when you work in a corporate, it's very different, because you're going out to those meetings, and we've both been there. You're going out to the meetings, and it's not the money from your back pocket. The expenses to get you to that meeting are covered. So you don't worry about the sales cycle being 6 months, a year, or 3 years to get to the fruition. But as a small business owner, that can be really difficult. I've got proposals out there which I know are not going to land till 2023. And that's hard to keep that momentum going, knowing that the proposal is out there. We're only in 2022, and the proposal is for October 2023. And it's interesting how you manage to keep going with that, because it does take determination. And you touched on that earlier, that you are very stubborn, which I really admire about you. I really do.
You have to be. You, like I say, it's very easy to get into this mindset of needing everything the next week, the following day. And you have to be stubborn. You have to be persistent. You have to work with these people and show them that they can rely on you, they can trust you. And yeah, not everything's going to fall into your lap tomorrow, unfortunately. And it's difficult, and also for a small business, it's expensive. You're doing a lot of traveling. You're never getting paid anything for it, and you have to stick with it, because if you don't, people then will just lose faith in you, and then you'll lose that job anyway. So you just have to be you, be honest, be sincere, and just do your very best, and you can only hope for the best.
Just want to touch on that, because money mindset, that's the other thing that is really interesting, is learning your value and learning to be able to, being brave enough to say, actually, no, that is my go-to market value. That is what you pay for my services. And there's been a lot of videos on Insta, videos on LinkedIn about dancing to a song that it takes me something hours because it does. And sometimes we forget that we write what comes into our pricing is our time spent writing the proposal, the time going to the meetings, the time of the catalogue, the sending the proposal afterwards or the notes afterwards. And yet when we work for a company, we do it because it's in our salary and we don't necessarily think about our hourly fee or our day fee even. But as a small business owner, we have to factor that in. And yet, how many times have you been asked, can you discount that?
Oh, every job. Yeah, and you're right. You've literally just nailed it. Like I recently went to Essex to go and do a job, and it literally took me about 2.5 hours to get there. Same coming back. I was on site for about an hour and a half, so I've literally just lost a whole day. You know, that's a large amount of money. And yeah, it's just difficult. It really is difficult. And then you do your very best. It's a very competitive market. Certainly the security industry. You know, everyone's doing this job, and you'll submit your pricing, and then the first question is, oh, can you discount it? And it's like, I already have, but I can't go any lower if I wanted to. You know, I've got to make money. I've never been greedy. That's one thing that I do pride myself on. I'm not greedy. I'm not really a big money person. You know, I try not to take money as being the main thing. It's more about just building those relationships. So in some jobs, I actually have even lost money looking at the long-term picture.
Yeah.
But it is difficult.
So I've now got my prices on my website, and the reason for it is, and this was really good advice from my business coach, well, my previous business coach, was if you've got your prices, then people know what to expect. It's a different feel to you. So I understand why you can't, because you've got to factor in the hardware, as I don't. It's time management. But I've got the pricing. And one of the things that I'd missed out about a year ago was I've got a degree in this. You know, I've got, not only have I got the experience and the years of coaching on camera, I've also got a degree, and everything I do is underpinned by a Stanislavski's technique, which is very similar to what some of the business coaches out there now use with the 7 questions, which are very similar. I mean, it's like the crossover, but I sit there and going, okay, so they talk about visualizing and putting yourself in this space and copying someone. I was talking to someone yesterday, they were talking about, I went on this coaching course and they told me that we have to copy the person in front to feel their weight. And I'm like, well, actors have been doing that for years, because we go to London Zoo and we sit there and we study a giraffe or a cat or wherever we are, and we turn that into the character. So the similarities between what I do and what a lot of business coaches do and life coaches is very similar. And yet I undervalued what I was offering. It's just really interesting about that money mindset, which is why I wanted to touch on it.
I think everybody values themselves, though. That's the problem. You know, I think everybody's guilty of doing that. You have to have confidence and faith in what you're doing. And, you know, like me, I've done 25 years of constant training. I'm always learning. I don't claim to know it all. I never will know it all. But there's a lot of time and a lot of investment in that. And if you don't forward that cost on, then you're never going to be successful. You're never going to do well. So I think there's a big mindset of people not really valuing what's behind the business, what's behind the service they're getting. You know, they just see an alarm installed and they say, oh, okay, that's quite simple. I just want it cheap. And it's like, well, the training and the understanding of to make that alarm properly work and do its job has taken time. It's not something you learn overnight.
I think that's absolutely, that's what I was meaning about, I've got a degree in this. You've gone off and trained in how to install the alarms, how to install the security systems, and how to keep someone safe and personally safe. Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. Thank you for your time. And if you want to say goodbye, we'll sign off now.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me. It's been great. And yeah, thank you to everyone that's watching.